Howdy, folks. This is Tony here, giving you my opinion on a Republican candidate for the 2024 presidential nomination by the name of Will Hurd. Now, he's been featured here in this article written by Julio Rosas, and basically, if you go and read this article, it's on Town Hall, he's essentially saying that he believes that Republicans should not focus on culture war issues, but instead should just focus on the military. Now, I profoundly disagree with what he's saying here because here's the thing. Your military policy is going to be shaped by your morals. For example, he says here that you shouldn't focus on culture war issues relating to the alphabet soup community, but that instead you should focus on Vladimir Putin. But you see, here's the thing. Vladimir Putin's an old man. He's not going to be around forever. So if you want to use international conflict to distract from cultural issues, what happens after there is regime change? What happens after there is a transformation of that government? You're going to have to keep finding some other international boogeyman to keep focusing on in order to keep your warhawk pals happy. And that's bad for the American people. That's going to cost more lives in the long run. That's going to drive our economy further down the tubes because we're going to find some other nation. If it's not Ukraine, it's going to be some other nation to donate billions of dollars to while we let our roads and our schools and all of these things pretty much be in decay because you're focusing on something across the water. You see, politicians like this who only like to focus on across the pond issues, to me, it gives me the impression that these kinds of people grew up in privilege. They don't understand what it is to economically struggle in America. They don't understand what it is to be poor. They don't understand what it is to live somewhere less than pleasant and have to choose between getting your car fixed and paying your bills. So they want to speak in the billions of dollars of what to do with internationally instead of speaking like normal Americans who go through financial hardship do in the hundreds of dollars. Notice he says here, well, my message is I wish they would focus their attacks on war criminals like Vladimir Putin, not, notice what he says, my friends in the alphabet community. Notice he says, my friends. He does not in any way explain why the alphabet mentality is healthy for humanity, because it's not. Because, like I said, the T in that group has the highest suicide rates among young people, and all of the other alphabet has the highest HIV transmission rates and the highest rates of dying of AIDS of pretty much anybody in the country. The CDC data bears that out. You look at the lifestyle, it's destructive. It's dangerous. There's a reason God told people not to do it. So instead of actually putting forth what you believe is positive about that lifestyle, you just want to say, oh, don't talk about them. Just focus on Vladimir Putin. But you see, here's the thing. When you adopt this mentality that says that morals don't matter, only your fiscal policy matters, only your foreign policy matters, well, the thing is, your morals drive your fiscal policy. Your morals drive your economics and your international relations. As an example, did you know that there have been multiple times in the last 3, 4, 5 years where the United States government is actually pushing other world governments to adopt more alphabet-friendly laws into those countries? They're actually using tax dollars from you and I to try to force that on other countries. So you cannot skirt away from the moral issue. You have to come to it to a head. You have to actually face it. Notice what he says here. It is 2023. We should be talking about how do we embrace our differences. Now, this is just moral garbage here. Here's why. If I believe that a child should be physically left intact, and you believe that a child should be manipulated by some college miseducated person and chopped up and given all these hormones and all of these kinds of irreversible, permanently damaging surgeries, if I believe that the child should be left alone the way God made him or her, and you believe that that child should be manipulated as much as possible, putting that child in a group that has the highest suicide rate, guess what? That's not a petty difference. That's not something to embrace. Under our belief system, the child would remain alive. Under your belief system, the child is probably going to grow up and self-delete. So human lives are at stake here. This is just as much a human cost issue as Ukraine is, as Russia is. You may have Ukrainians and Russians blowing each other up in the middle of Europe over there, but guess what? You have American kids that are deleting themselves because of a dysphoria that was brought upon them by college miseducated adults. Either way, blood is being shed because of ideology. And so by you stepping away from the culture war and embracing the alphabet community, you're not saving lives. You're endangering more young lives. Notice what it says here. He says, because here's what I have learned as I have crisscrossed the country. Ooh, again, just because you've traveled a whole bunch of places does not mean that you're more intelligent than anyone. You could have been to Prague, Monaco, France, Brazil. You could have been all over the world. But just because you've been to multiple countries does not mean your logic is as strong as the amount of places you have traveled. It's not like a video game where, oh, I've been to all these levels and unlocked them, therefore I win. No, you have to have sound logic. He says, what does he say? We're better together, and we should be having our leaders that are encouraging that are protecting that in order. How we use our diversity to solve major problems that we are facing. Well, you see, here's the problem with that mentality. Diversity is not always a good thing. Now, I am not talking about any kind of racial prejudice here. Again, I am literally walking diversity. Again, I, the man Tony that have made this video, I am a mixture of Irish, Mexican, mulatto, and Cherokee. I'm a whole bunch of different nationalities put together. But diversity of skin color is one thing. Diversity of thought and how we treat people is another. You see, peaceful people and violent people cannot cohabitate. And if you believe that children ought to be left in peaceful conditions, and you have someone over here who wants to bring a violent process upon children, there's no way to have those two cohabitate. There is no way to have those two diametrically opposed mentalities existing in the same space. One must prevail, the other must be defeated. It is that simple. We're in a new Cold War with the Chinese government. The Chinese government is trying to surpass us as a global superpower. Well, you know, here's the thing about the Chinese government. They don't have these cultural issues. They have other cultural issues, but you don't have young Chinese people chopping their organs off because someone on TikTok told them to do it. They're sitting there doing copious amounts of high-level math and science. They're learning how to build rocket ships. They're learning how to build missiles that could be sent to Americans' doorsteps if we fall behind. So it says that's going to impact everybody, and we need to make sure that having a competition of ideas on how to be prepared for that. Now, okay, so you want to embrace competition of ideas, but not when it comes to human sexuality? Not when it comes to, but you embrace competition of ideas when it comes to competing against China, but you don't want to have competition of ideas within a country. Listen, you have to pull the beam out of your own eye before you get the mote out of someone else's eye. When America has children that are literally mutilating themselves, kids that don't know what a verb is, but they want to tell you what pronoun you're allowed to use in their presence. Kids that don't know about the founding of this nation. Kids that don't know all the branches of government, but they want to tell you what gender they are. We have a large amount of youth who are very opinionated, but with no knowledge. We need to get our own house in order first. We have no business to be imposing upon China, telling them what they ought to do when our nation is in a shambles. It says, we can talk about the economy all day long, he continued. The culture wars relating to alphabet issues mainly stem from how it's being pushed onto younger and younger audiences through the media, the education system, drag shows, brands misidentifying their core audience, such as Bud Light. Absolutely. This is being pushed on people. This is not an issue where, if it were just an issue of you have a few weirdos on a college campus who wrote a couple of weird books about how they think gender is a social construct, but otherwise people are left alone, that would be one thing. But when you have people trying to get you fired for not using their pronoun, trying to get your business shut down for not baking their cake, trying to get your internet website business shut down as in the 303 Supreme Court case, the fact that there even needed to be a Club 303 Supreme Court case is proof of the fact that this is not a fight that Christians and conservatives have started. This is a fight that's being brought to our doorstep, and we're just saying no thank you. That's basically what's going on. So Why don't you, instead of trying to bash conservatives, Mr. Hurd, why don't you go tell your quote unquote friends in the alphabet community to calm down and stop attacking Christians? Stop trying to get conservative businesses shut down. Stop trying to harass American people. You see, there's always this attempt to harass the conservative person and give the left-winger a pass. That time is over. Now it's time to actually hash these issues out and show the world why the left-wing ideas do not work. And it takes guts to do that. Because if you don't have the guts to tell your fellow countryman why he's wrong, what makes you think you're going to have the guts to stop that Chinese soldier from obliterating your nation? Food for thought. Have a good day, everybody.